So let's kick off. First up, we have Leanne Davis, who's going to take us through the financial year end. Leanne's a BAS agent and owner at Sorted Out Office Assist. And if you've been to our certification webinars, you might have heard her explaining QuickBooks Online already. So over to you, Leanne.
Thanks, Darcy. I'm just going to grab my screen over here. Okay, hopefully you'll be able to see my screen okay now. Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's session. So I'm taking you through as Darcy said, end of financial year using QuickBooks Online. So for me, my end of financial year, I like to keep it simple. I've seen lots of different bookkeeping processes and checklists that can be really overcomplicated. So my checklist is simple, and I just like to keep a simple process. Today, I'm not going to take you through any bookkeeping processes as such, but point out in QuickBooks Online where you can save lots of time with the features using QuickBooks Online. So when I first log into my QBOA, I've got my dashboard, and from here I can see, I'm just going to mute Darcy there. From here I can see on my dashboard, and I can have a look at my client list. I have a look at the columns, the bookkeeping columns, and just see what's going on in the file before I even get in. So I can see here on my status column whether my books have been closed. So closed books in QuickBooks Online is locking at a certain period. So I can see here that my books are closed as at the 30th of June 2017. And on my for review column here, I can also see that I have one change to closed books. So this means that something's been changed to my books after they've been locked, and I might have done a year end. And then I've got two more items here for review. So just clicking onto those as well will take me into my client file where I can have a look at what's going on before logging into the actual file. So this is my bookkeeping tab. In here I have an account watch list. I can see my books have been closed and at what date, and I also have a review, things for review in QuickBooks. So first, the account watch list. This is really handy just to have a look, just to get an overview of your balance sheet items that have a balance, and just have a look before you even log in at things that might stand out as to not looking correct, like a debit balance here of my payroll clearing account. So I kind of know in advance what I'm in for before I get into the file. I can also sort. So if I want to check my accounts that I reconcile, now in QuickBooks Online, you can reconcile most of your balance sheet items, not just your bank account. So I can check here as well, the last reconciled date, and make sure these are up to date as well. And again, just know what I'm in for before I get into the file. Over to the right hand side, I've got my review in QuickBooks. So I have my change to closed books, and the other transactions here I've got changes to reconciled. So where my bank accounts have been reconciled, if there's been any changes made to those reconciled accounts, it will point those out here and give me a hyperlink that will take me directly into those accounts, into those transactions as well, to see, I just clicked on the wrong one there, to see what those actual transactions are. I'm just going to go back there. So it'll actually take you into that bank account and into those transactions. So you don't need to go looking for transactions either, a big time saver. So if you did the end of financial year or followed the blog last year, you would already have your financial year reports done. So they'll be sitting under your custom reports. I've got my end of financial year reports here. So exactly the same. I've set those dates as last financial year. If I'm running these, in July to do my end of financial year, I can run my reports, all of those reports that I've created, just in seconds by either exporting them as a PDF, or I can go through each one individually as well and just run those reports. So because I've already got those dates set and the report set, I don't need to go looking for the reports, and I don't need to change any dates. If it's your first time using QuickBooks Online and it's your first end of financial year, I'm just going to run through quickly how you would go through and create those reports. So first, decide on what reports you want to form part of your be part of your end of year checklist. So for me, you know, I'll create a balance sheet, I'll create a profit and loss, accounts payable, accounts receivable. If my clients have inventory, create an inventory report, and then also a trial balance. So just a handy tip as well, with most of the reports, not all of them, you can set your reports to run at a particular date. So I would come up to my accountant toolbox, to my report tools, set my date here. So I'm going to run these for last financial year, set my date range, and whether I'm running those on a cash or accrual basis. And then most of my books, most of the reports that I run will actually run for that particular date. So I can then go in and create those reports. So you might have them already sitting on your favorites, or you can search really quickly just with the report name up here. So for the balance sheet, I'll go in and run my balance sheet. It's ran for the last financial year, and I'm just going to save that customization. So I'm going to create a new group, and I'm just going to call that whatever you want to call that. I'll change the name for this one. So end of financial year checklist reports, and add that. And if you haven't used the customizations before, you add your new group, and you can share them. You can have it just within your firm, or you can share with all the users in QuickBooks Online. I'll just keep mine for the firm only and save that report. So now that report is going to sit on my customization, so my customized reports, under my end of financial year checklist reports. And then I would go through and create all of the other reports. So again, my profit and loss is already ran with those dates. I don't need to set those dates. I'm going to save it to the customization, my end of financial year checklist reports, and save that. So I can then go through and create all of the other reports for my checklist. Then next year when I come to do my end of financial year, they're already there. I can just click on those. That report's going to, so those reports are going to run for your last financial year. So once this clicks over to July of 2018, these will actually run from July 2017 to 18. They'll automatically update for that financial year, for the last financial year in July. So then once you've created your reports, they'll sit, as I said, on your customization, and from there you can go and create other reports that you might need for your checklist. For example, the credit cards that you want to, or bank accounts and credit cards that you want to reconcile, you can either create a list from here, from your balance sheet, transfer that over to your checklist, or on your accounting tab, and then on your reconcile screen, you can get a summary of all of your accounts, so all of the accounts that you would have reconciled in the past, statement ending date, and what date they were last reconciled. From here, you could export out this list into Excel, and then that will create or form your part of your list for your checklist as well. So just pop that over there so you can see that comes up fairly quickly, and then you just add that as part of your checklist. So you've got all of those accounts. Let's get out of that. Another thing I do for the reconciliation, because obviously I'm going to go in to all of my clients' files and reconcile all the bank accounts. Obviously, as we know, reconciling your bank accounts and other accounts forms the basis for doing your financial reporting. So you want to make sure all of these are done. So just another thing I would do, another shortcut on my reconciliation screen, is just add that to my toolbar. So just on my toolbar here, so whatever you want to name that, and then it doesn't matter what file I'm in, that'll sit up on my toolbar. Whatever client I'm in, I click on that reconcile, and it'll bring me to this reconciliation screen to reconcile my bank accounts. Also from your reports, so once you've created the, back to the balance sheet, you've started creating the reports, and you want to start having a look at, your intercompany loans and things like that. I'll start to create some reports for this financial year to date. So working in June now, start working with my client and the accountant for that client on some different reports. And from my balance sheet, I can start to create those reports. So I might have a look, at intercompany loans and also directors' loans or directors' drawings, and start to create those reports. So here I've got a director's loan. I can come in get a transaction history on that. It's got the last financial year here, but I can really quickly and easily change that to this financial year to date. So, you know, next year again, when I run that report, it'll run on that current financial year, and I'd save that as part of my customization as well. So this is my director's loan, and I'm going to add that to a port group. I think I've got, you know, for accountant review or for client review, and save that. And either get the reports ready to send out. So I might send these out to the accountant here. So I've got for accountant review, I can export those out as a PDF and then email them. Or when the accountant logs in, I can share these reports and the accountant can just quickly and easily come in and access the reports that I want him or her to see and have a look at. And same with the client, I can create another report set, you know, for client review, either send them out to my client. I can schedule them as an email out for my client, or create that set for them to review quickly and easily. With your intercompany loans, just another tip for that, if you're creating, you know, running your balance sheet and you've got two companies and they both have QBO files, you can open one. So say I'm working in Chrome now, I'll log into my QBOA and log into the client file. If you use another browser, say Safari or Firefox, open that in another window and on another screen. You can then log into QBOA again, and then have the other company open, and you can work in the two companies at the same time, reconciling your intercompany loans that way. Also, as part of your end of year process, you would reconcile your, you know, your age payables and age summary, age receivables and age payables summary back to your balance sheet. So I can run these reports. Again, I've got my date set, make sure these reconcile back to my balance sheet. And then also from here, review any bad debts that I might want to write off. So the process for writing off bad debts in QuickBooks Online, we have in our accountant toolbox our write-off invoices. I don't recommend using this to write off your bad debts. This is really handy if you've got lots of invoices where you've got 1 and 2, you know, maybe up to 50-cent balances that you want to write off. You can come into here and write off them in here, or just write it off to so you could set here, you know, a balance less than 50 cents, which I don't think I have any in this account, but that will give you all of those accounts with those, you know, small balances. And then you could write these off to maybe a rounding account or something like that. But to actually go in and write off bad debts, it is recommended that you create an adjustment note for your client. And then you'll need to do that, you'll need to create a product or service that you can then write that back to the bad debts. So if you come into your sales register and then to your products and services, come in and create a new item. So we'll create that as a service item. And I'm just going to call this bad debts. SKU, if you want to have a SKU category, I would just have this to my admin expenses and fees if you're using categories, and then your bad debt written off. And then what you would do here, just for your income account, pick up your bad debt. So it can be an expense here. So just pick up your bad debt expense account, your GST, if you're registered for GST, and then just save and close that. So I've added the item. So with your sales transactions, any sales transaction, you have to actually allocate a product or service to that. So I would then go in and create the adjustment note on the account. Now from my report, I've got Annie May, who I'm going to write her off as a bad debt. So I come in here to create my adjustment note. So for Annie May, and pick up my bad debt here, and the amount. So she's got $1,712.70. Let's do that the wrong way. That wrong way all around. So now that's going to go back to my bad debt written off. And you know, whatever process, whatever information you want to put into that, you could attach a copy of the invoice or any documentation you have onto here as well. I'm just going to save and close that, and then I'm going to allocate that that adjustment note to her account. If you've got in your settings that you automatically allocate credit notes, it's going to automatically do that. For me, I prefer to go in and do it myself, so I have a bit of control over what it's allocating it to, but then I would just pick up Anime here. Select those transactions that I'm writing off, and then pick up my adjustment note to credit that back. So the amount received will be 0, picking up all of those invoices and the adjustment note, and I can just save and close that. Then when I run my balance sheet, my profit and loss, that's going to pick up that on my bad debt expense for those invoices. Okay. With your inventory, so if you do have clients using inventory, we have a couple of ways that you can do your stock take. So you can get a report out for your stock take. So your inventory, actually I'll just do it this way, stock take worksheet. I can create a report there, export that out into Excel or print it out. I've got my quantity on hand in here. I can then come up to my 2 ways. So you can either go through, if you want, you've only got a couple that you need to adjust and you just want to do those individually, come back to your sales register and onto your products and services, and then over on your action column you can adjust your quantity here. So pick the individual items that you want to adjust, and then from your action just select the drop down and then adjust your quantity from here. That'll bring up the adjust quantity screen, and then you can go in there and make your adjustment. So your quantity on hand, make your adjustment to your new quantity, and then save that. If you've got a whole stock take and a big list that you want to do all at once, you can then come up to your quick create and then to other, and then down to your inventory quantity adjustment, and then just work through your list from your stock take sheet, putting in your number. You can change this. So this is inventory shrinkage account is automatically created when you turn on inventory. You could change the name of that in your chart of accounts, or create different accounts for different reasons that you're writing the stock off, but come in and do your stock take through there. Okay. So I'm just going to come back again to my reconciliation screen. Once you've gone through and reconciled your accounts, on your reconciliation screen, and as I said at the start, you can reconcile bank accounts, but you can also pick up any other balance sheet accounts that you might want to reconcile through here as well. So your payroll clearing accounts, PAYG, different accounts that you want to make sure come back to 0, just come in and select those through here and go in and reconcile those. You have a summary tab on the reconciliation page. So clicking on the summary, I showed you before all the different accounts that you want to reconcile. From here, you can also go to history by account, and this will give you the history for all of your accounts. So select your bank account you want to have a look at the history on, and that will give you the history. So all of the different statements that you've reconciled, and then also any changes. So on our screen at the start, we saw the changes to reconcile. So this will also pop up here in this changes column, and then you can go in and have a look at what changes have been made. Now this is my demo companies. There's lots of changes. It's very ugly. So yeah, you can go in and review those changes and work out whether they need to be fixed or not. So with your end of year, so on your end of year rollover, once you've finished processing your end of year, you can, oh, excuse me, there's no need to do a backup, there's no need to do a rollover, you just keep working in your file as you would normally. So all of the history, you know, for however many years you have your file will be there. One thing we do suggest though is, or I suggest, is going in and locking your books once you're done. So once you finish your 30 June 2018, go in and lock those books. So you can do that from your gear icon and to your account settings, or you can do it through your dashboard as well. Onto your advanced tab, and then you've got close books. So set the date here, tick the close books, select your date. So I might want to change that. I'm just going to change that to yesterday's date, today's date, oh, that's last year. Let's just change that to today's date, and then set it so allow changes after viewing a warning, or allow changes after viewing a warning entering a password. So you can set a password there that if someone does go to change a transaction, they need to actually enter the password to change that transaction. And then you're ready to go. And anything that changes or gets changed after that period will pop up in your dashboard. And then also an exception, there is also a exceptions report. So if I just put in exceptions here, so exceptions to closing date, that will bring up any exceptions there as well from after those books are closed. Now, the last thing I just want to show you is your journal entry. So creating the journal entry, and whether you as the bookkeeper or you as the accountant come in and do the journal entry, when you're logged into QBOA, you can come in to create your journal entry and select that the journal entry is an adjusting entry. So tick this box here, select it as an adjusting entry, go through and create all of your adjustments for that financial year. What that will then do is create 2 reports for you. So in your reports tab, if I just put in here adjusting, so we have adjusted trial balance and adjusted journal entries. So your adjusted trial balance will give your trial balance with your unadjusted balance, and then any journal entries that you've created in the next column, and then your adjusted balance. And then you have your adjusted journal entries, so that will give you a report on all of the journal entries that you've created as well. And you will notice there that those reports too have just ran in the last financial year because of that report date set. I don't have to go in and change those dates. Okay, Darcy, that is it from me.